Hello again, and welcome to episode 6 of From the Cheap Seats, your internet show that takes a look at the week in news. On today's show, we're going to look at Bill Gates and his damn microchips. We're also going to explore the Lincoln Project. We're going to finish up with the return of my mistress. Now remember, in the right-hand corner, lower corner, for those of you who are watching on PC or on a laptop, you see the red emblem. Please click that to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, look up From the Cheap Seats on Facebook and like our page, and you'll be kept up to date with all of our videos and all the other things that we post on social media. So before we get into everything, let's check this out.
Now, just minutes ago, President Trump tweeted this image saying, quote, "Many people say that it is patriotic to wear a face mask when you can't socially distance. There is nobody more patriotic than me, your favorite president," unquote. This image comes after months of President Trump openly mocking people who wear masks and refusing to set an example by wearing one publicly. 2 months ago today. 2 months ago today.
Okay, I live in the bastion of Trump fandom in the state of Missouri. In Jefferson County, Missouri, in my small town of Pevely, we have a small grocery store about a half a mile from my house. It's convenient. If I need to go to the grocery store, usually I have to go about 10 miles down the road. But with this little grocery store, I can just pop in when I need something like salt or tea or something small. But the thing about my grocery store, masks are not required, they're not encouraged, and they're not even worn by the staff at my local Save-A-Lot grocery store. When I go in there, I think a pretty good estimate would be that 80% of the patrons in the store are not wearing a mask. Why is that? When we have all the information about the good that masks do and how masks have simply helped flatten this pandemic worldwide, why are we still not encouraging masks? Why do we still have people who are mocking masks? And I'll tell you why. It's our leader. Now, when I first heard about coronavirus, it was in late January. I was up early in the morning, about 3 o'clock, and I was watching CBS Overnight News, and they were talking about this virus from China. Someone ate a bat or something. There's no vaccine for it, blah, blah, blah. But I've heard all this crap before with SARS. I heard it with H1N1, that we were going to be invaded with a virus, and it was going to cripple and debilitate our country. Well, those kind of stayed at bay and stayed away from our borders. All right. So when I heard of this new virus, I thought, well, I'm not going to be concerned. I've heard this song and dance before. I've heard it with SARS. I heard it with H1N1. We'll be fine. But by late February, the virus is definitely here on our shores. My son contracted coronavirus in early March. So I had personal experience in knowing that it was really here. It's not just a hoax. So now, we are about 5 months into this pandemic in the United States of America. And we still see numbers spiking, going up. We still have hot spots, and we now lead the country and the universe in new cases and deaths. Why is this? Well, I'll tell you something. If our president would have set the example in early March by showing up in public with a mask on, by having press conferences with a mask on, I guarantee you we would not be spiking in this country now. We would just be like the rest of the world who is starting to look at this in their rearview mirror. Let me tell you how far the United States has went down the rabbit hole. Baseball season started this week. And this week it was announced by the city of Toronto that the Blue Jays could not play in Toronto. Why is that? Well, it's because of those slimy, dirty people that's south of their border. Those people who refuse to wear masks, who want to make sure that their rights are taken care of to breathe fresh air. So the Toronto Blue Jays are telling their team, or the city of Toronto is telling the Blue Jays, you can't play in Toronto because that means when you fly into the United States for away games, you're going to have to fly back, and you're probably going to bring that dirty virus back here, and we don't want that. They can keep it down south. So the Blue Jays are scrambling to find a place in the States to stay when their first home game starts. So It's kind of a mess, but that just kind of shows you, whereas we used to be the leader in things of this nature, United States of America, now we're looked at as one of the shithole countries. You see, if Trump would have showed up with a mask, I know things would be different, because his followers would not be standing up saying, I demand my rights, I don't want to wear a mask, because they believe everything this man says. They believe he is infallible. Well, they really do believe he's infallible? Oh, a large percentage of them. They hang on his every word and action like it is gospel. Have you ever talked to a hardline Trump supporter? I mean, this messianic figure that they have, if he would have put on a dab mask on his gorgeous face, his cronies would have followed. And this is why I know they would have followed, because you cannot have a logical conversation with a Trump supporter, because if you ever do logically back them into a hole, which you can very easily, they're going to say, well, big deal, Trump 2020. They completely lose all logic and just go to cheerleading. But instead of having a mask, Trump just never showed up with a mask till last week. And now he's got followers who show their fragility by showing up with guns at Capitol buildings, like in Michigan, because they don't want to wear a mask and it's an infringement on their rights and they want to go out and get a haircut and stuff like that. So, who do I blame for our spike? Well, kind of putting a lot of blame on the president here, because he didn't set the example of wearing a mask. And as a postscript,
all right, and let's talk politics for a moment. Kristen, the president has been making an issue of his opponent Joe Biden's mental fitness for office. This came up again in a new interview overnight that the president did. Tell us about it.
It sure did, Savannah. In that new interview overnight, the president not only questioned Biden's cognitive ability again, he also gave new details about a cognitive test he says he took recently. He'd previously raised the issue of the test to say he'd done very well and to question whether Biden would score high points. But during an interview on Fox News this weekend, it was pointed out that some of the questions are actually pretty basic in that test. The president has insisted, though, the last round of questions are much more difficult, and he was asked about that. Here's how he described those questions. Take a listen.
It was 30 or 35 questions. The first questions are very easy. The last questions are much more difficult. Like a memory question, it's like you'll go person, woman, man, camera, TV. So they say, could you repeat that? So I said, yeah. So it's person, woman, man, camera, TV. Okay, that's very good. If you get it in order, you get extra points. Okay, now he's asking you other questions, and then 10 minutes, 15, 20 minutes later, they say, remember the first question? Not the first, but the 10th question? Give us that again. Can you do that again? And you go person, woman, man, camera, TV. If you get it in order, you get extra points. They said nobody gets it in order. It's actually not that easy, but for me it was.
You know, I don't need a test to know what his cognitive ability is. I hear Donald Trump spilling his IQ all over the ground every time he opens up his mouth. And before I would believe that he aced this test or any other test, being a multiplication table test or a urine test, I want to see the results. I don't believe him. But I'm sure I'm not going to see those results, because I'm sure he has them locked up with his tax returns. And from the category, here we go again. I want to be upfront with you. Bill Gates is not trying to microchip humanity. This is an internet theory that's been going around for about 4 or 5 months, and we're going to look into it. You see, on Wednesday, Gates once again had to address this because there was a poll from Yahoo News. This survey found that 28% of U.S. adults actually believe in this debunked conspiracy theory that is suggesting that Bill Gates has planned to use a potential COVID-19 vaccination to implant microchips in all of humanity so our movements can be monitored. I keep seeing this perpetuated by my fundamentalist friends who keep saying that Gates is ushering in Armageddon and that he is going to unleash the Antichrist, which will culminate in the second return of Jesus. I'm sorry, people. I just can't buy all the second coming theories. And there's reason. I have experience with it. I grew up Southern Baptist. I was indoctrinated with second coming theories about Christ. And I've been waiting for it, and it hasn't happened. It was supposed to happen within a generation of the establishment of modern Israel. 1948, 72 years ago. That's been an awful long generation. Don't think it's going to happen. I spent the first 40 years of my life waiting for Jesus to come back, longing and pleading for Jesus to come back to take me out of this wretched world. It didn't happen. I've read the Bible a lot. When you read the first chapter of Acts, Jesus ascends up into heaven, and his people are just looking up there, waiting for him to come back, and he doesn't come back. We've been waiting for 2,000 years. Jesus isn't coming back because it isn't going to happen. So if Gates doesn't want to microchip people to usher in Armageddon in the second coming of Christ, what are we talking about here?
Bill Gates has been the subject of conspiracy theories about COVID-19 for months. The main one, that he's using this as an opportunity to microchip people or implant a small scannable chip in their bodies. The claim went viral again Tuesday after posts of a Microsoft patent that many claim is for microchips. Okay, let's break this down. These claims all started with a Q&A session on Reddit. Gates was talking about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and how they're tackling COVID-19. Now, one of his answers was about people safely returning to work. He wrote that a system of, quote, digital certificates could be used to show if you've already been tested or eventually vaccinated. And that answer went viral. Articles claimed he admitted to wanting to microchip people here, which led to viral videos with millions of views. And last week, former Trump advisor Roger Stone even repeated the theory in an interview. But here's the thing. Gates never actually mentioned microchips or any sort of body-related technology. He said, quote, digital certificates. And that could be anything. A code or image on your phone could be a digital certificate. So these articles and videos made the microchip connection themselves, and they kept repeating the claim without any evidence. So first question, did Bill Gates ever mention wanting to microchip people for COVID-19? No, that idea is completely false. But Jason, what about that patent? That's proof that Microsoft is looking into this, right? Wrong. There is a Microsoft patent for something completely different. Its headline talks about, quote, body activity data, and these claims say that's for microchips. But the patent doesn't talk about implants or microchips at all. It's actually talking about wearable devices like smartwatches or fitness trackers. We can verify the Microsoft patent is real, but the claim it's for microchip technology is false. Bottom line here, Gates is falsely being linked to microchipping. So if you see these posts, don't share them. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
Okay, it cannot be made any more crystal clear. But as long as we refuse to use logic, people will always believe in a good conspiracy story. And this one just has to be about the end of the world, which isn't going to happen. Holy freaking mother of God, you are still with us for segment number 3, which means you must kind of like what's going on here. And that makes me so happy. You know, for the first time in my lifetime, which, by the way, on Saturday, August 1st, will be my 54th birthday. And I'm not expecting gifts or anything, but if you do want to send me like those digital gift cards, just send them to vinceopper@gmail.com, and I would appreciate it. But anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. But for the first time in my lifetime, there is a movement within the party of a sitting president to spend time and resources to contribute to his defeat. Now, this organization is called the Lincoln Project. It is made up primarily of Republicans and former Republicans who have a singular goal. And that goal is to defeat Donald Trump in the 2020 election. What exactly does that mean? It means you've got diehard Republicans and former Republicans who are going to cross party lines and vote for Joe Biden, the Democrat. Now, this is from the Lincoln Project website. It says the founders of the Lincoln Project have spent over 200 years of electing Republicans, but now they've sparked a nationwide movement with a singular mission: to defeat Donald Trump and Trumpism. Straight from their website. Take a look at this.
With just a few months until the presidential election, a number of super PACs are starting to ramp up political ads. One group accusing the president of a number of policy and personal failures has already released a handful of ads like this one.
America will again and soon be open for business. We cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself. We're not going to let the cure be worse than the problem.
The Lincoln Project is behind that ad. It's a group of Republicans who believe the president has abandoned the party's founding principles. It is headed by a number of Republican advisors with national political experience.
And they are playing some hardball election politics, slinging mud at their own man from their own party. Check this out.
One of the founders of the Lincoln Project famously said that the Democrats bring a soup ladle to a gunfight. He found them socially and morally incapable of fighting the kind of tough turf wars in the world of campaign politics. The Lincoln Project was formed. They are doing tougher ads against Trump than any Democratic group. Here is tonight's latest effort.
Something's wrong with Donald Trump. He's shaky, weak, trouble speaking, trouble walking. So why aren't we talking about this? And why isn't the press covering Trump's secretive midnight run to Walter Reed Medical Center? Why do so many reporters who cover the White House pretend they can't see Trump's decline? The most powerful office in the world needs more than a weak, unfit, shaky president. Trump doesn't have the strength to lead, nor the character to admit it. We're not doctors, but we're not blind. It's time we talk about this. Trump is not well.
Hey, perhaps I was wrong in the last segment. Maybe the second coming is imminent after all. I'm going to admit something to you. I have a mistress. I really do. And I know it's kind of slimy. She's been around longer than my wife. She's been around longer than my kids. My wife and my kids know about her. And I don't see her all the time. She only shows up about every 6 months, stays for about 6 months, and then she has to leave. But she's beautiful. She holds me, she comforts me, she cries with me, she cheers with me. She's awesome. My mistress showed up a little late this year because my mistress is baseball. And my mistress shows up in the form of the Chicago Cubs. That's my real mistress. In my nerd cave, I have all kinds of items related to my mistress, like this beautiful one I call Schwarber. You may think, oh, that's ugly, but no, she's beautiful. I also have a place to say my little penny should one day I decide I'm going to buy the Chicago Cubs. Who knows? I have Nolan Ryan, who was never a Cub, but the combination of a bobblehead and my love of the fastball when I was little, I keep Nolan Ryan around. Kind of a part of my mistress. And of course, you know, in writing about my mistress, you can still get my book on Amazon, Vincent L. Opper, Insufferable, The Epic Struggle of a Cub Fan Living in Cardinal Nation. I wrote this in 2013, published it in 2014. In it, I predicted that the Cubs would win the World Series in 2016. Ha! They did. I'm a prophet. So if I seem a little bit happy, a little bit jumpy over the next few months, yeah, I'm excited. My mistress is here, and she's spoiling me like nobody else can. Hey, thank you for joining the Cheap Seats. From the Cheap Seats, excuse me, I don't even know the name of my own show. But anyway, tell your friends, tell your family, and when you have time, make sure that you subscribe right here. And also tell your friends about it, and like the page on Facebook, and keep following us. Thanks a lot. We'll see you next week.